And although his talent has no doubt spared him lately the loaded label of immigrant and earned him the mantle of Henri White, he's become an eloquent foe of racism in Britain and a defender of its victims, whom he sees as the subjects of a new British Empire within. Indeed, in the country which has educated him and honoured him, and where he prefers to live, he wonders if, as he has said, the England of fair play, tolerance, decency and equality ever existed, except in fairy tales. Could you describe your own childhood inside your family? I mean, the economic conditions you grew up in, the contrasts that were before you, even the privileges and the lack of them, perhaps.
Well, I grew up in a very affluent family. I mean, my family were not one of the super rich of Bombay, which, I mean, richer than whom, or more super than whom, there are no rich. But we were, we were a well-off family, and so one of the things that happens is that you grow up with servants, which is something which English people are no longer really familiar, and I mean that has enjoyable aspects as well as the more obvious aspects. Because I mean, I was brought up by servants, or by our servants, not by my parents, and I spent much more of my time being taken around, by the cook or by my aya's nanny, into their worlds really, than I ever spent with my parents. So, in a way, it gives you access to worlds. In a comparable English upper middle class child would not be able to get into the places I got into as a child. And I mean, it's for instance true the same thing happened to Kipling. Because when Kipling was growing up in India, he was also brought up by the servants, to the extent that he spoke Hindi as a first language. And when he was shown to his parents, the cocktail hour or whatever, tea time, his ayah would have to remind him to speak to them in English, because otherwise it wouldn't have occurred to do so. So there's that. That's quite. I mean, it's quite valuable in retrospect, because it means that if I want to write about a poor person in Bombay, I actually have material to do it with. I mean, because I remember a lot of them.
You went to Rugby, to an English public school. Did you feel yourself an outsider at Rugby? And how did that
Well, I was made to feel it,
itself?
I mean, and what's odd is that I went to Rugby as kind of, I would have thought, perfect public school material, really. Kind of upper middle class, recently colonial, and quite kind of snobbish in my habits and thoughts, really, because I'd been brought up like that. Really. Or not even, I'd not been brought up to be snobbish, it's just that it was in the air. I mean, the idea that one was not, high Tory had not occurred to me. And Rugby sort of, I mean, in a way did me a favour, because it cured me of all that. And it cured me of all that, not because of the staff, because it was the education was extraordinary. I mean, I was better taught at Rugby than I was ever taught before or since, and much better than